Hey there, this is Kapradhan Trifan, and I just wanted to come on and talk a little bit about this last season. My last episode, which was more of a year in review, wasn't necessarily the highlight reel that probably you all expected. That doesn't mean that maybe we shouldn't have one. So, what I wanted to really quick do right now is acknowledge the vast amount of guests that contributed to this season, season 10, and start right at the very tip top when we launch season 10. That was with Nicole Jacobson. It was episode 165. And we talked about mastering budget friendly marketing strategies for events. You can find that episode on YouTube. You can also find it on Spotify or whatever, where else you might be consuming your podcast from. Then the next episode, the same season, I had Shelby Ring. We talked about brand storytelling and video production. Sarah Reuter was the next guest. Relational, intelligent, and elevated experiences was the title for that episode, and we really dived into that. Then this was actually 2024. So then I had the year in review, part of that season, and I talked about what happened in 2024, and that was episode 168. And then we kicked off 2025 with episode 169. And that was me diving into AI, AV, event technology, trends, but really what does it take to use technology, production, and AI to elevate experiences. Then episode 170 was Jacob W.P. Ramey. And the whole episode was about mastering AV production, event layouts, renderings. If you have any questions about rendering, that episode is a must listen. In episode 171, I had Lindsay Martin Bulbray, and we talked about future proofing your event, strategic planning, and engagement practices. Really good episode if that is something you're struggling with, especially in the context of events. Episode 172 was very special. Karina Bauer. If you are in events, you know who Karina Bauer is. Even if you're not in events, you should know who Karina Bauer is. She is the CEO of IMAX, the largest trade show for event professionals in the world. When IMAX puts on a trade show, it gathers crowds of 17,000 and more. So that is one episode that you should tune into if you're curious how Karina does that, but also being quite the rock climber. She is amazing. We rock climbed together before IMAX this last year, and she kicks ass. And I can say that, I have really good upper body strength that I built over the years, but yeah, Karina kicks ass on the wall for sure. Then we had an episode recorded at Rainfocus Insight conference. It was a panel, Mary Davison and Liz Layton. It was kind of dissecting what happened at Rainfocus, which was the trade show was literally being taken down. So that was kind of funny. Episode 174 brought Evan Babbims on, and we talked about corporate event production, event impact. That's a really good episode to tune into as well. Then episode 175, I had my good friend Amy Pumarega, and we talked about navigating the gap between event expectations and reality. If you are someone that goes to event trade shows, association type of trade shows, or any type of meeting and event, specifically planned by event planners for event planners. In episode 176, I had Pierre Metralier. He is the CEO of Spot Me and Onomy. And we talked about AI innovation and the future of pharma meetings, specialty of Pierre, especially under the economy brand. Very interesting episode indeed. And if you are someone that produces events for life sciences industries, this is the episode for you. In episode 177, we talked about sustainable event planning strategies for a greener future with Alicia Druby. Definitely tune into that because sustainability is a big topic. It's been a big topic for many years, but still is as we conclude 2025. Episode 178 brought my good friend Noah Riley, local to Boise. We talked about AI, automation, and the future of work, the mindset, and the implementation. This is a good episode if you're a small business owner and you're curious, how can AI make a difference in your business practices, in your workflows, in your processes and strategies? Great episode. It's actually one of the most listened to episodes this season. So that says something. Episode 179 brought Rena Hirschdofer. She is the director of marketing for Caesars Entertainment. We talked about breaking barriers in hospitality, wellness, and global leadership. A wonderful episode, especially at that level where Rena operates. Episode 180 brought David Hirschfeld, and we talked about AI in event marketing, power strategies, and future trends. A really good episode. Again, if you want to know how can AI make a difference in your workflows and your processes, either as a event professional or a small business owner. 181 was the episode where we brought back Liz Layton. She is a co-founder of Club Ichi, one of the largest communities for event professionals, event marketers, and the episode is all about community strategy, the future of experiential events, a place where Liz really shines. So definitely tune into that if community and experiential is something that you're interested into. 182, that was the episode where I brought in my friend Vlad Iliescu. He is someone that I met at the Microsoft AI conference. And we talked about the truth about AI agents, large language models, and a lot of insights that Vlad had to share in the context of AI and agentic AI. Episode 183 brought back my good friend Brinisha Cobb, and we talked about mastering event contracts and negotiation. Last time I had Brini on the podcast, it was right after COVID, and she had a lot of good things to share about contracts in the context of post-COVID landscape. But now this episode is more in today's landscape. So if you are curious about how you can make the most of your contracts or what are some of the negotiation tactics and techniques you should be employing, that is the episode to tune into. I would be amiss not to mention the July anniversary special series of episodes, which were all tuned into my upcoming memoir. And I took different chapters from the memoir and I did a readout. Now, this was the raw manuscript. And even as I was reading the manuscript, I was very much internalizing the writing, but also realizing how much more work I have to do because the manuscript is still in the editing mode. And there's elements that need to be revised. So some of those would have been maybe repetitions, or maybe the flow wasn't as I wanted to be. So as I'm reading this manuscript out loud for the 4 episodes that I covered in July for the anniversary season, the 6th-year anniversary of the Events Demystified podcast, I was making mental notes of the work that I still have to do in order to be able to publish this book. Those episodes are very special and dear to me. So if you have tuned in and you have reached out to me to give me feedback on the manuscript, I just want to take this time to thank you because It means a lot to me. The same way for everyone that has subscribed to the newsletter to stay tuned to the latest updates and the snippets that I publish bi-monthly. Thank you for doing that. And just know I am in the process of editing, and come next year, I hope to have that book published. And every single one of you that has subscribed to the newsletter will get a signed copy from me. So if you haven't yet, you still have a chance to do that. Make sure that you follow the link in the episode notes and subscribe to the newsletter. Episode 189 brought Marisa Neboski. Marisa was a wonderful guest. She is amazing at event marketing strategy and creativity, and she had quite a few stories to share from her time at Lego and a few other large brands where she definitely made an impact. Then episode 190, my good friend Ian Morrison. He is a strategist. He is someone that really cares about human-centered innovation. He has some amazing LinkedIn posts that maybe you should peruse on your own time. Ian provided so much value, and we talked about future-proofing events, digital twins, pre-visualization, all the cool stuff. Episode 191, I brought Claudine Pellington. I'm a fangirl. That's all I'm going to say. We talked about women breaking barriers in AV, resilient representation, rising to the challenge. She was a wonderful guest because I could really talk to her openly about both the pros and the cons of being a woman in AV. Great episode to tune into that, especially if you are a woman in AV and you're wondering how can someone make it and be successful in this industry by getting enough work. Claudine had lots of tips to share. Tom Stimson was my guest, episode 192. We talked about breaking the pricing trap, how AV companies can thrive. This is a great episode if you are the owner of a production company and you want to know how the owners look at strategy as far as growing their business, especially in the context of the event industry where budgets have shrunk, deadlines have shortened, and expectations have risen all at the same time. Episode 193, I brought Stacy Honke, and we talked about mastering authentic influence, communication strategies for leaders. Then in episode 194, I had Nick Borelli, and it was all about behavioral data, ethical AI, the future of event experiences. Nick is someone that talks on AI quite a bit. We run into each other at events, and it's a great episode to tune into if you're interested in analytics, in data, psychological behavior data is concerned, all of those things. Episode 195 brought Steve Martel, and we talked about turning pages and profits, turning your story into a business asset. It was very interesting to learn that Steve actually has a mechanical engineering background, and he turned into a book coach that helps business owners turn their knowledge into profit by writing books. I secretly brought him on because I wanted to pick his brain since I'm in the process of writing my own book and publishing it in 2026. That was more of me wanting to know more about that process. If you're anywhere close to wanting to maybe write a book of your own and publish it, that's a great episode to tune into. Then episode 196, I have Mark DeCarlo. Mark is a legend. He is a Emmy-winning TV host that really got into AI technology. He's also an improv comedian and inspirational speaker, has so much to say about living well on purpose. So many things that Mark does well and has succeeded in the entertainment industry for a very long time. So he's definitely someone to look up to. And if you're curious about the stories he has to share from his time as a TV host and other shows that he's been on, recognizable household name shows. Tune into that episode. Then episode 197, I brought Mike Reed and we talked about sound healing and how can you improve events and create meaningful experiences. And this is a very timing episode because there's a lot of data coming from the Global Wellness Institute about sound and the ability to heal. I am definitely nerding over that data, and thanks to David Stevens that brought it to my attention. That was definitely an episode worth having, even though it's kind of off the beaten path when it comes to the type of topics that I would want to cover, generally speaking. Great topic nonetheless. And then episode 198, I brought Arias Websterberry, and we talked about AI in digital marketing and sales. Personally thought that episode was very intro level for AI, especially in our time right now at the end of 2025. And I wasn't sure if I was going to post it, to be honest, because it just felt so AI 101. But then I had to remind myself that there's a lot of people out there that they are at that level and they do need that type of content, even if it's very basic. So I still posted it and it got quite a few views. So I guess it mattered and the content was received well. So I'm glad that I did. And then the last episode of this season was basically a year in review. All the things that I did and didn't, a bit of a reflection over what this year has meant for me, for the podcast, for my business, multiple businesses, and also for my bodybuilding journey. So if you're curious about that on a more personal level, then that is the episode to listen to. Season 10 was heavy, was diverse, was full of content, amazing guests that added value. And it has come to a conclusion because come January 2026, we are releasing season 11, the CEO edition. And I have been hard at work recording with a dozen CEOs that we are going to release 1 or 2 a month on a schedule. Those are very in-depth conversation, not just about what this brand is, but more about the person beyond the CEO. Those are the conversations that I'm curious about and I want to have about the challenges, about the wins, about the failures, about what it takes to be a successful CEO in our industry, in the event technology space, and learn a few things. I think it's very wise when you can listen to someone's story and not just relate to it, but also draw some insights you can apply to your own business. So hopefully you don't have to repeat the mistakes they've made. So this, in a nutshell, is what this whole highlight reel of what 2025 has meant for the Events Demystified podcast. I want to take this time and thank every single one of you that have tuned into this season. And that's been many of you because according to Spotify Wrapped, we did hit a record high of episodes that were being watched, of video episodes that were being tuned into, as well as a marathon of episodes of people that just kept listening to the show one episode after another. That brings a lot of joy to my heart because there's a lot of effort that's being put into this content, not just on my side, but also on my team's side. I have a full-time assistant and a full-time editor, and they all work really hard to make sure that this content is relevant and those guests are cherry-picked to make sure that they do add value. One thing that I've stayed away from this past season is sponsors because I did not want to dilute the content. Now, come 2026, I'll be honest, I will have to open a few spots for sponsorships because we do have to pay for the production of this content, which we have for 200 episodes. And that is a huge milestone. Now, that also comes with certain costs that we have to cover, right? Fun Event Productions has covered the majority of those costs. However, it's time to look long term. What does it look like to financially support the show in a way that is sustainable, but also doesn't dilute the content? Those are things that I care very much about. I am very selective when it comes to who are the guests that I bring on, but also who are the brands that I would support and promote via the shows, because my audience is important to me and their desire for amazing content is important to me. So just know there's a few spots that we have open for sponsorships for 2026, and those are filling fast. But if you are a brand that is curious and you feel like the podcast, the show, and the audience align with your brand, please reach out and let's have a conversation. Obviously, there's a process that we would have to take the brand through to make sure that we are in alignment. But yeah, looking forward to 2026, to what this might look like. And the CEO edition, I'm telling you, it's worth every listen. So I hope that you get value from it as much as you did from season 10 and the previous seasons of this show. And with that, happy holidays, happy new year. Share the show with your friends, with your network. Let's get the word out and make this the best event technology and AI show that's out there.
This episode is brought to you by True Fan Events Production. We don't just produce events, we power them with AV, AI, and a strategy. From bespoke AV production planning and management to AI workshops, courses, and keynotes, we help teams build smarter events and stronger businesses. Learn more at truefanevents.com.